Hello, everyone. My name is Marion with DTM Real Talk Channel. It's the channel that you can tune into, have the ability to listen to the thoughts of others about topics all over the world that touch every one of our lives. Everybody goes through basically the same thing. There is nothing new under the sun. So if you're going through, someone else has already been there. Maybe you can find hope. Maybe it's a pathway that can set you on the right road just by tuning in. So DTM Real Talk, just keeping it real. And if you like it, like us at the bottom, subscribe, and let us know just how we helped you. Just keeping it real. Nothing but love. Welcome to DTM Real Talk. We are just keeping it real tonight. And as you all know, this is episode 7. And 7 is the number of completion. So we just want to say good evening, good morning, good noon, and good night. But we are coming to an end of our relationship sessions. And we wanted to just wrap it up. For those of you that did not tune in, we're just going to give you a little quick review. We talked about this whole sessions were about relationships. And so before I do that, if this is your first time chiming in, please like, share, and subscribe. And I appreciate you to the utmost. But anyhow, we talked about relationships. We defined what a relationship was. We talked about understanding your value system as it relates to relationships. We talked about actually unifying that value system. We actually shared about some of the devastating effects of trauma that happens as a child and affects your relationships, all relationships. And then we shared, I think, was it last week or week before? Oh, how men and women think differently. And Professor Daniels ended it last week with how don't change me, change you. And it was so cool and set it up for us today. And my special guests are Dr. Butler. Say hi to the good folks out there because you're back.
Good to see everybody back at DTM Live.
That's right. And my very special guest and dear friend and sister, Jennifer. Say hi to the good folks out there.
Hello, people.
She go, hello, people. All right, her name is Jennifer Stamps, y'all, and we're gonna get right into it. And she actually wants to share her story. And if you've been tuning in for the past 6 weeks, you will be able to relate as she shares her story. So Jennifer, tell the good folks where you're from.
I'm from New Orleans, Louisiana, and I was born and raised uptown, in the uptown area. That's around the South Claiborne area, Carrollton.
Okay. And what about siblings? How many siblings?
I have 2 brothers and 2 sisters. It was 5 of us.
Okay. And are they in New Orleans? They're still living?
Yes, everyone is still here in New Orleans living.
Okay. And what about your parents?
Both parents are dead.
Okay. Well, very well. So I just wanted to give them a little bit of your background and where you're from. And you are today, I have to say it, I feel very proud saying it, that you are a born-again believer in Jesus Christ. Is that not correct?
Yes, it is. You better believe it.
And y'all, she wants to share. Well, we're going to ask her some questions about, her childhood and coming up, and you'll be able to relate to some of the sessions that Dr. Butler and I had the past few weeks. So share a little bit about, well, Dr. Butler, I want to ask you some of the things that you would like to ask her as she shares her story. I don't even know how to go with this, but I'll let you go first. Share, how was your childhood coming up?
My childhood was very traumatic for me.
Before you go any further, I guess you let Dr. Butler explain that word, traumatic, and how is connecting with relationships for those that are just chiming in and didn't listen to the other episodes. So take that, Dr. Butler, before she go into that.
Most people don't think about the word trauma, but trauma actually represents impact. And the impact of trauma actually is everything that you hear, everything you see, every knowledge gathering batch that you get, all impacts you. It changes the way you think, changes the way you make decisions. But when something impacts you so greatly that it throws you out of normal order, then
Mm.
it throws you into disorder. That's what trauma is. Trauma is when you have something that impacts you so harshly that you cannot function normally because of it.
Wow.
Okay. And so having a traumatic impact is a big deal because now you not only are a normal person, but you now are in an abnormal situation and you have an abnormal reactivity that you may not be prepared for.
Gotcha. Clear enough. Clear enough. So, would you say that your childhood was abnormal or normal? I guess that's where we can start. Jen?
Abnormal.
Okay. And share with the good folks a little bit of that.
Okay, I'm the oldest of five siblings. I'm the oldest. Um, my parents were not married; they were common law. Mother
Mm,
didn't believe in marriage. They were the live for the weekend type of parents.
Mm.
She was a housewife. My father worked, and they lived for the weekend to go in bars and have what they call a good time, which means they left us alone at home. But we lived on top of a bar and we had to share the bathroom with 10 other families.
Wow.
Bathroom was in a center of the place where we lived at. And so all the families not only shared the bathroom, but we shared the kitchen. And so I saw a lot of fighting between the men and women, a lot of cursing, a lot of sex acts, and it was just a traumatic experience. I had a friend that was actually raped by a man, and the family accepted a bribe to keep from pressing charges against him. But
Wow.
the rape was so traumatic that she could never ever have she could never ever have a child. And we were the same age, 11 years old.
Wow.
That really impacted my life. You know,
wow.
I looked at men totally different. I didn't respect men. It started right there, you know.
Mhm.
Wow.
So
Did that um did that experience like growing up in that for years at a time, did that make you feel as if it was like that's how the world was? Or did you see it as something damaging that occurred and you're like, oh my goodness, I hope this never happens to me?
no, I saw that as being that's how men were. That's what they
Hmm.
wanted, and that's how they were. And it just so happened at the age of 12, I was raped
Mm.
by a friend, a family friend, and not only raped by the man, but I was molested by his sister.
Yeah,
So that was a rape by a woman to
Wow.
me,
yeah.
you know.
Right.
So
That's
I
a harsh
understand.
situation.
Yes,
Most
it
people
was.
most people don't know that 3 out of every 4 people have been sexually assaulted,
Mm-hmm.
and half of those assaults have been uh, where people have actually been raped or penetrated in some way. That's bad.
Yes. And I never told anybody. I never told my mom. My mom went to her grave never knowing that.
Wow.
Hmm.
You know,
What
on
about
my
your siblings? Did they know?
no, they didn't know either. And they still don't know till today unless they come and hear a testimony or watch DTM
It
talk.
was so DTM down
No, they never knew either.
there.
I
Oh
never
no.
told anyone
Wow.
Now,
except my husband
so how long did you keep that hidden inside of you?
until I met my husband 28 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now from childhood to that point in time, how long had it been? I mean, I don't know how old you was when you got married, when you met him.
Let's see, 28 years ago.
Oh, you met
Yeah,
him 28 years ago.
I
But
married him 28 years ago.
Yes.
yeah. But what I'm saying is how long time had it been since you were 11 till you met your husband and shared that? I'm trying to see, how long did you have to keep that inside of you.
Oh my God. Let me see. I had to be
Tell me
about
how old you were when you met him, and I'll figure it out.
Yeah,
uh
how old were you when you met him?
I should know that. I introduced him.
you should, Lord.
Hmm.
Yeah, you should know that, Marion. Figure
Uh,
it out.
41, 42.
Yeah, something like that. I
So
met him.
three,
We married in 1998.
wow. So 3 decades you held on to this information.
Yeah.
And how now, how did you get to a point to where you went from hating men to a point to where you're like, okay, I met this man and I want to, I may consider talking to him, and then y'all wind up getting married. What happened there with your trauma? Because there's normally an internal struggle that you're doing up here.
Well, it was a struggle because even though I didn't hate him, um, I didn't respect him. Well, let me put it this way. I didn't respect authority.
Ah,
So our marriage, we went through a lot of struggles because I could not submit.
so you saying when things happen to people, they normally get bitter or they get better, and you chose to get bitter in some ways, and it made you very resistant because normally that happens because of a lack of trust. When
That's correct.
people go through trauma, whatever the traumatic areas, their trust level is off. When you talk to someone and their reaction is way up here, like they're mad or screaming at something, and it does not match their what happened, then you know there's some trauma or some kind of brokenness right there.
That's right.
Right.
Wow.
And Dr.
So how
Butler,
did I'm sorry, go ahead.
let me point this out too. I think it was you or either Professor Mark, I don't remember, but one of the points was made that when there is when there's absence of a father in the home, usually women have trouble with authority. I think it was you, or I
Yes,
can't remember. That was you. Yeah,
yes.
she said that. I thought about that.
Yeah, the absence of a father in the home, because even if there's a traumatic issue, and a matter of fact, when the father is in the home, there's an 86% chance, if it's a single father or if it's a married couple,
Mhm.
86% chance that the child will be able to graduate high school without getting addicted to drugs, getting pregnant early, or having a sexual assault charge against the child. They're protected a little bit better if there's a single, if the father is out of the home, okay, their chances of making it without those types of trauma goes all the way down to 23%.
Hmm.
That's scary. That's scary. Um, and so can you elaborate on that? So where was your dad? Did you have a father in the home all the way growing up, and what happened there?
I had a stepdad in the home,
Okay.
and he also molested me. So that was, that was a it just was a terrible experience all around. It was like everybody was about sex. Everybody was
Mm-hmm.
molesting. There just was no trust anywhere in anybody, you
Mhm.
know. So that was very traumatic because I felt like I had to protect myself. I had
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
nobody to protect me. I
Yeah.
grew up I grew up despising my mom because I figured she should have protected me from all of this.
Mm.
You know,
See, folks don't realize that expectation is what controls your ability to be hurt. And when
Mhm.
you expect someone to protect you and then they actually attack you, that damages you so hard that it creates a potential for long-term emotional hurt. And that's why I'm so excited about your testimony. So go ahead. Now how did you break out of this? I mean, how long did all this stuff happen?
how did I break out of it? I went through a class with Pastor Jerry Davis Jr., Making Peace with Your Past.
Mm.
I went
Um,
to that class, and by going through that class, I was able to talk about it. What happened to me, what took place in my childhood, how I didn't respect men, how I used my body against them. That's how I got what I wanted from them. Never really loving a person, just taking advantage of them the way I felt they took advantage of me. I put all men in the same category.
Hmm.
Mm.
You see.
Wow.
Wow.
Um, Pastor Jerry Davis Jr. is not only my friend and my spiritual mentor, but that's also Mama Miriam's brother. And he is an avid and capable teacher and preacher. Um, he's been here to Tennessee to be able to minister on our behalf as well.
Hmm.
He is very, very capable. Um, I didn't realize that was your first time really coming to grips with that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Dr. Butler, remember I said, as far as mine was concerned, it was 45 years.
Yeah.
It was
Wow.
45 years. I was raped when I was 19.
Mm.
Well,
And
I
I,
was 12.
yeah, yeah.
You know.
So,
Well,
it's like I knew something was wrong, the inner peace. There was not the peace
yeah,
with God, but it wasn't until I came to grips, the acknowledgement that I was bitter, that I
yeah.
was hurt. I didn't even know I was bitter. I thought that was normal. But
Hmm.
some of my behavior was because of being traumatized. And I didn't know that. That's
Mhm.
what's
Wow.
got me on a path right now to help women come from bondage to freedom, because I can recognize it. I can see,
Wow.
yeah, yeah.
Now, when y'all were younger, when you guys when y'all were younger, uh, did this affect? Because I know how it might affect your ability to see men, but how did it affect your ability to wonder if I wonder, you're at the playground and you wondering, I wonder if this happened to her. Did y'all have those kind of thoughts? I wonder.
Go
Yeah, every time I would see certain things, if I saw a little girl sit on a man's lap,
Hmm.
I automatically said he was molesting her because that's how it happened to me sometimes, sitting on a lap, you
Yeah.
know.
So you,
So if I saw different things that looked like it looked when it happened to me, I always assumed that it happened to them. And that was the person that did it to them.
Mhm. So it's like a accusatory. Is that a word?
Yes, yes,
Accusatory. Yeah,
yes,
you
yeah.
automatically think just because that person is there, it reflects back
right.
what happened to you when that
It,
person could be totally innocent.
right.
Hmm.
I didn't
We
think
see.
that way because I was 19. I
Hmm.
was angry. I was
Hmm.
angry. I was grown already and angry. And I felt I was going to pay men back. That was
Mm.
what I took on at 19 years old. But then shortly thereafter, I got married. So it didn't happen that way. That was just what I felt in my heart.
Mm.
Well, that's what I did as I was growing up.
Mhm.
I was going to pay men back, and that's what I did. I they wanted to have sex. That was fine with me. I was using them.
Yeah.
You know,
Hmm.
that's
You
the way
and the,
I
and the
thought.
devil was using us.
Yeah, but I felt like I was using them. All
Right.
I wanted was what I wanted from them, you
Right.
know? And I would say to myself, well, it's just the body, it's not my soul.
Mm.
Even coming up as a teenager, because like you said, I had I was got pregnant at 17 with my oldest child, you know? But it,
Wow.
So,
so
Jen, what I want to ask you to share with the good folks based on some of the things that Dr. Butler and Professor Mark talked about, I want to ask you, I think I had it written down right here, some of the symptoms after well, this is fast forwarding because you came to Jesus Christ. Um, what symptoms did you recognize in yourself after being totally aware that you had not forgiven? What are some symptoms that you recognize in yourself that you knew you had to deal with, even though you hadn't dealt with them yet?
I knew I had to deal with authority. I knew I had to deal with that. I knew I had to, even though I had accepted Jesus Christ as my Savior, I had not accepted Him as Lord. And the
Mm,
reason I said that is because I held on to that part of my life. And I was saying, well, He didn't protect me from it when it happened to me. So there's nothing He can do about it. I have to do it myself.
mm,
So I
Mm.
hadn't totally surrendered and accepted him as Lord of my life. in
Mm,
that area. I held on to it and said, I have to protect me from that never happening to me again. I have to protect my daughter. I have to protect my grandkids, my
Mhm.
grand and, and not allowing something like that to happen. Because as I said, I held it against my mom
Mm.
because I
hmm
felt like she should have protected me.
Right. Right. Okay.
it seems like there's a whenever something happens to folks, that you always have a healthy way and an unhealthy way of dealing with it. And you see how when you don't know Christ, how your flesh jumps in, and the first thing you think is, I'm gonna do evil for evil,
Right.
or I wanna, if you hurt me, I'm gonna hurt you, tit for
Yes,
tat.
Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also too, I noticed that in myself, uh, what came from mine was a lot of insecurity, a lot of being withdrawn when I felt like I wanted to be withdrawn. I could shut down. Um,
Wow.
and I recognized that. And so I started to deal with it, which is why I'm so outspoken today, because I don't want to be withdrawn.
Well, I
Yes.
got I got a question for you. I got a
Yeah.
question for you.
Go ahead.
The Okay, we have in counseling, we have 7 stages of like rape recovery,
Yeah.
right? And when a person has been raped or violated, or if they have been traumatized, see, when I was 10, I was kidnapped for a week and tortured, you know, and I escaped, but I had to escape into the woods.
Mm-hmm.
And um, people sometimes, when I would hear people tell their stories, I was like, why didn't they say anything? Why didn't they just go tell everybody? If it really was that bad, why did it took them that long? And I didn't understand how the mind works. And so you have all these people that have been offended. 3 out of 4 people have been sexually assaulted, and all these bad things that happen to people. So the first 2 stages of the 7 are shock and silence,
Mm.
that you are so impacted so deeply in your spirit that you struggle to even find words to communicate it to your own mind.
Yeah.
Mm.
I feel
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Like you just you can't believe what just happened.
Right.
Yeah.
Like it's like
And
that.
when that
Like,
happened to me, I used to model. And well, this is a long story. Y'all got to get the book to read it. But anyway, I was 16 when I
come
left.
on now. Come
Yeah.
on now.
I was 16 when I left home, and I was gonna be a movie star, right? So
Yeah.
I was gonna model, or I did model. I did facial modeling. And that's when it happened. It was a guy that actually looked just like Elvis Presley. Is that in my book, Jen? I think I put that in there. But
I think so.
yeah, yeah, he looked just like Elvis Presley, white guy, and and he was supposed to be. It was my photographer. That's who it was, and that's what he was supposed to be doing. And I was in there
Yeah.
changing clothes back and forth, and that's when it happened. And people tell me if you don't fight, then it's not rape. If you say no,
It's rape.
it's
That's
rape.
right.
That's right.
It's rape.
That's right.
How am I
No
gonna
means no.
how am I gonna beat up this big old man?
Yeah.
And I'm in a state of shock, afraid, crying,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know. And he says, if you say anything, what am I gonna do?
Yeah.
Say
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how that happened.
Yeah. One of the worst things a man can ever do is use his power, his promotion, or his position of authority
Yes.
against someone that they're supposed to protect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one of the worst things you can ever do.
Right.
Yeah,
Mhm.
because that's the utter spiritual um, uh, you know step down from what you were created to do.
Right.
So that's bad. And then the next stage of sadness and suffering
Mm.
is when it starts kicking in. You start thinking about it, can't get it out of your mind. I wanted to find out, you know, how deep did that go? I mean, you know, um, most women who are raped, they go through a period of serious depression, and they not even sure why they're depressed. They're in a state of depression so long is bad.
It's
Can
bad.
you elaborate?
Yes, I can. I think I'm trying to think now. I was 19. I think it was a couple of years, but it would be
Hmm.
off and on because I'm so charismatic and I'm out there. I'm always talking. So it was off
Hmm.
and on. And when I would get
Yeah.
alone, it was when I would get alone that I would go into that state of depression. But when I come out, I'm
Yeah.
like I am, like, you know,
Oh.
because of shame, shame,
Mm-hmm.
and not being able to talk about it, not telling anybody. I don't think I think I told my sister. I think I did. Yeah, I think I did. But I didn't realize that it had affected me that bad for 45 years.
Oh.
That's correct. And I actually journal, you know that. And that's when I recognized it as I journaled and started dealing with some things in my past. I said, oh my God, I've been traumatized and I've been fighting it. And these are my behaviors right here. And it's because of being traumatized. So I was able to recognize behavior in myself first
Mm.
and in others. I was like, oh, they have to have been molested. And when I'd get a
Wow.
relationship with that individual, I'd be doggone if I wasn't right.
Mhm.
You can see it.
I could
And
see.
Yeah. You can
yeah,
see it.
and I went through several stages because, like I said, I was 12 when I was raped.
Yeah.
I went through depression. I fought. I was a fighter, and I also became somebody else. In other words, I created another me. I became Mary Ann. I wasn't Jennifer. I
Mm.
became Mary
Okay.
Ann.
Mm-hmm.
So I literally became another person.
Okay.
So I went through many phases, but I would fight if you looked at me wrong.
Mm,
If you had something that I wanted, I would fight and I would take it.
mm-hmm.
That's how I dealt with it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The if you notice every villain in every movie, they always start out as a nice person that had something bad happen to them, and then they develop this alter ego.
Yeah.
Yes.
And if they don't get rescued from it, they just want to. They it winds up being about their hurt, and all they wind up doing as a result is causing everybody else to feel the pain that they feel.
Right.
Hmm.
Right.
So
Yes.
now the memory of the way the memory works is memory actually when you remember something, women have a habit of tagging things for memory, right? You drive
Yes.
past a pothole, you flag it in your mind, you saw it, but you said that's not important, and your mind just forgets it. But
Yes.
when they think of something that is important, they normally remember the setting around it, and women have a habit of locking in how it made them feel.
Yes.
That's scary because every time you pass something that reminds you of the place, the person, or the thing that happened, women have a habit of regurgitating and going back through that same feeling, the exact emotion over and over again. I'm
Hmm.
curious to know what y'all went through that actually triggered you in those areas, and and things like that. Where do you remember that happening from time to time? We call it PTSD, but that's really what it is.
Yeah. Jen, you can go first if you want.
I if I see a movie,
I was
it
going to
comes,
say that.
it comes back to me. Certain movies I can't watch. I couldn't watch at one time the movies where the sex trafficking,
Mm-hmm.
where they would kidnap the girls and set for sex trafficking. Those type of movies I wasn't able to watch for a long time
Mm-hmm.
because it triggered. I actually ran into the person one time before I was saved. I was in the casino and I actually ran into the guy first rape. And that I thought was gonna put me in a mental hospital. I couldn't get out of my head what had taken place.
So
And
when you saw him, what was going through your mind?
oh my God, I was like, that's him. He hurt me. It's like I went back into this child, back to
Mm.
this 12-year-old girl,
Mm-hmm.
and started remembering and reliving everything that took place.
Mm.
And he was with another young lady. He was much older than me. He was much older than me, you know. And I was like, oh, I thought he was dead. I was hoping he had died. And oh, it was terrible. It
Mm.
was a horrible experience.
Wow.
Mm.
I never really saw the guy again. I was just telling uh, Professor Mark, I used to pray for his salvation because by that time I had gotten saved, and I discovered that I was bitter, and discovered where I was looking at my traumatization and the behavior that I had, that I was exhibiting because of it, because I come face to face with that. So that's the first thing, acknowledgement. So when I saw that, I really, really wanted to be free of it. And the thing that triggered is the question you asked. I never watched beauty contests. Never.
Mm.
I never watched beauty contests or swimming. I never watched that because that's a memory for me. And I never watched them. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, it's only been maybe a year ago that I realized how traumatized I was by what had taken place in
Mm-hmm.
my life with the rapes and the molestations. And what happened for me to find that out was my husband broke down and cried one day. I mean, I had never seen him like that. He wanted to know what was it that kept me from respecting him and
Mm.
following his leadership. Because, like I said, we battled through that the whole 28 years we were together.
Wow.
And he asked me to go before the Lord and get an answer. And it didn't take long to get that answer.
Mm.
And when I went before him, I was broken. And I told him it was because of the things that had taken place in my life, the rapes and the molestations. And I just could not trust a man. Now, mind me, before we said I do, when we were getting to know each other, I told him about the rapes. I told him about the molestations. He not one time ever brought any of it up. What he wanted to know when I told him was where were they? He wanted to go and do whatever, take care of back then, killing them or doing whatever because they had hurt me. But he never
Mm.
once threw it in my face that you are a whore or you this or you that, because
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
told him what I did because of the things that took place in my life. And
Mm-hmm.
when I explained to him, even though he loved me, he respected me, he never threw it up in my face, I had not let it go to the point where I could respect him as an authority figure, as the leader of my life. I could not trust because I had not let go and trusted God the way I was supposed to trust God. If I
Mm.
could trust God, it was no way in the world I was going to trust him.
Right.
Wow.
So it's just been less than a year that I've started trusting God the way I'm supposed to
Mm.
and made him Lord of my life. And what frees me all the time is talking about what happened. That's what
Wow.
frees me, talking about it, giving the testimony, talking about it, sharing what took place.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
that's what released me to trust God.
Right. Amen.
Mm.
Amen.
Now, most people, when they have trauma and they begin to angle themselves in a positive direction, um, the Lord normally angles them in a direction. Then they normally experience a slingshot effect where they was held back for so long, and now something happens where God has empowered them,
Yeah.
and
Yes,
they get launched. I'm
yes.
curious about, how you guys have seen that principle play out in your lives.
Yeah. Well, for me, as I said before, I've been journaling since I was 13. And that's when the shift took place, you could say, when I met a young, actually, the Lord had gave me this channel, had given me this channel, and I had no clue. I won't go into all of that, but anyway, it started. And on the channel, I was doing marriage couples, and I threw it out there who would like to, couples would come and talk about their before, when they first got married, a little bit of their journey, some of their challenges, and where they are now. And it
Mm.
was so cool because I had 6 couples to come forth. One of them, well, 2 of them I didn't know, but one I didn't know at all. I can't remember their names. They were young from Atlanta, and they did their story. It was good. And the guy, the husband, we were just small talking. And I said, so what do you do? Blah, blah, blah. And he went on to say he was an editor. And I said, well, I want to write a book one day. I said, God is pressing me to write. He said, I got the perfect person for you. Okay. Now watch this. God had given me this channel and told me that this channel was for believers to come on and share their story. In other words, what God had done for them, where they were, a little bit of their journey, and where they are now because of him. So he gave me this young lady's name, and I'm throwing it out there, and I hope she sees it. Her name was Robin. Robin, I just forgot it. She'll give me that. Robin. Anyway, Robin. Had a program that was Norwood, 8 weeks to authorship. Now I'm talking about the shift. God put it in my spirit. I had journal. I got journals this high from when I was 13 years old. And I knew I have journaled in the book that I knew that I was going to write a book. I knew that it was this is in my journal.
On now.
And when I met this young lady, she's 31 years old. She's probably 34 now. It was 4 of us in a class, 5. And I was the only one with content. And long story short, she said, you're going to launch your book in 8 weeks. I stood before the church. I was scared to death. I said, because I didn't know nothing about that. I just had content. And I said, I'm going to launch my book. It'll be on Amazon in 8 weeks. And as I was writing, I skipped so much stuff, but it's enough in there to get the picture. That was the shift for me. It was time for me to release, as Jen said, to release, to be able to openly share, which I could share one-on-one. I would meet people that had been molested. I would meet women that had been raped, and I would be the one to tell them that it happened to them. And they would say, how do you know? Dr. Butler, they would say, how do you know? Well, I knew because it happened to me.
Come on, take one and know one.
They exhibited some of the same behavior. The behavior was so clear, and I knew why. So that was the shift. So I went on a mission to bring women from bondage to freedom, only those that wanted it. And the first step was acknowledging that you were stuck.
That's right.
Acknowledging it. Acknowledging it, taking responsibility, not that you were wrong, because maybe you weren't, you were a child, in Jen's case, that you were in the wrong place, but forgiving you, because most people blame themselves.
Yes.
Wow.
Forgiving yourself. So that's what the shift was for me. And I'd be doggone if God hasn't been setting the stage. I have been meeting so many people. Met a lady this last weekend, and I'm going to give it back to you, Jen, but I'm excited. I get excited when I talk about it. A lady said, I read your book. And then she went on to tell her story. And as she told her story, it was personal. So in case she's watching, I'll leave that like that. She shared her story, and I said, who have you told this to? And her response is, nobody but you and God. And I just,
yeah.
So that's God ordained. So that's the shift for me. And it just happens that way.
And you got to put the title of the book out there so people can hear it.
Oh, it's what is the title of my book? Determined to discover why.
Determined to discover the reason why.
MBrown on Amazon. Yeah, it's been written 2 years ago, but it's making an impact. And I thank God it's making an impact for the people that need it.
Yes.
Wow.
So that was my shift to answer your question.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. This is deep. It's good stuff. So the last thing, I mean, I got a whole list of questions here, but
can I just pause you, Dr. Butler? She didn't share her shift, but I'm going to share it because I pour into her. Her shift now, you could take it, Jennifer, because I'm gonna bring it out there.
Go ahead.
She has a love and a passion for children. That's where she is, for young girls. Because of what happened to her. Young girls, to bring them to a place of protection. So
come on now.
And I've been trying to get in contact with a facility that we happen to run across. And I'm trying to get to that place where I can go and minister to these young girls.
Yes.
Wow.
Because like Sister Marion said, you can look at behavior and know when somebody has been through the same thing you've been through. And just for that, one of my granddaughters
Yes.
had been molested.
Mm,
I learned that from her behavior. And
mm,
I asked her, well, even though I could tell her that she was, and I asked her, and she had been.
Yes.
Yes.
yeah.
And we went through the whole process of going to the law and having that person arrested and getting counseling for her. We went through the whole thing.
Hmm.
And it was her behavior that made me know something was wrong.
Right. Right.
When you care about a person, their actions have deeper meaning. When
Yes.
you don't care about a person, you just say, "Oh, they're just hard-headed. They misbehaving. They get on my nerves."
Yeah.
When you care, then that's when that book comes alive because
That's
you want to know the reason why they're
right.
behaving that way.
Yes.
Mm.
So I think the very title produces an infusion of love in the character of people trying to care for other people the way God actually puts His love in our hearts.
Yes.
That's so amazing. So I got to throw this out there because we have a very large youth department at my church. So I got to throw this
Hold on,
out there.
hold on. You
Okay.
can't throw it out there. We're gonna have to throw that out there next week.
Next week.
We
There we
got to
go.
throw it out there
Stay
next week.
tuned.
Y'all,
Stay
this is
tuned.
DTM Real Talk, and we're just keeping it real, and we are hot and on the road. We'll see y'all next week. Thanks for watching DTM Real Talk. Be sure to join us for more conversation. And oh yeah, don't forget to hit that like button, share, and subscribe while you're there.